Awesome music. Some hello with the beats.
Now, from our last conversation, I think something came up, and kept thinking about the last question which we had from our last episode, and that was, what is the best we hope for? Now, your response to it was, before death comes in, before death kicks in, we should have realized our purpose
And lived it out.
and live it out. Now, I kept thinking of how those people press our buttons, or how our buttons, when they get decoded, can help us in realizing what is really our purpose and what we really need to do and all that. And the most essential part of it is, if those people who press our buttons help us to realize what we really need to do, then in a way they will be contributing to pointing to what we really need to do while our mortality still exists. And also, if possible, through our destiny guides, our destiny shapers and destiny deliverers, we can actualize that we realize to be our dream. And that still points to the reality of how relevant it is to get into meaningful human relationships that help us in one way or the other to contribute to our realizations of this that we really desire in life. And this morning, just been listening to Peterson Jordan, and the guy was trying to explain why sometimes it comes a time when we have to change vocations or our jobs, because we really don't feel the need of where we are. We really feel out of place. And I basically challenges us that it's important sometimes, when you realize it's not where you really belong, then changing homes is something that is important. And that, for me, my immediate thought was, how do these people whom we encounter in life help us in doing this? How can they even come to a point when somebody observes us, listens to us, and realizes that probably our hearts is not even in this that we are doing? And I think in many ways, it's just a point to treasure these people who help us to press those buttons, decode these codes that are deep within us, so that we become better versions of ourselves.
Now, coming from a school of existentialism where freedom and responsibility is highlighted, I think the first initiative in identifying and living your purpose should be, first of all, a personal responsibility before these destiny guides come in to assist and help. Right?
Sure.
And so the question might come up, how do you identify your purpose? It's a timeless question which everybody has their opinion on the same. And for me, I'll funnel it down to a sense of fulfillment. When you go back to your room, whatever you've done during the day, what gives you a sense of life and what makes you regret. You know, there are days when you go to bed and you look at the accomplishments of the day and say, man, I'm living my best life in terms of, not in terms of pleasure or in terms of anything, but your soul is happy with what you're doing. Then there are days you go to sleep and, you just feel so empty. Despite the contribution you've made to society that day, you just still feel, today my energies have been wasted. I've done something good, yes. I've done something to help the community and the society around, but there's something lacking. So for me, that will be my first litmus test of identifying your purpose. Something that gives you a sense of satisfaction, a sense of of fulfillment. Okay. The second one clearly will be passion oriented. Okay. There are things you do and you're not struggling to do them, yet everybody else is struggling to do. Okay, so I'd also go with that. If I'm passionate about something, but I'm not really struggling to do it, and when I do it, I feel fulfilled. I feel I have greatly contributed to the people around me. Then I feel that's my purpose. Okay. Then of course it will come with the social network one has. You know, if you're in a group of let's say if you're in a society of entrepreneurs, and then you realize that what you're doing is actually not in line with that. Not that it's bad, but it's just not in that space. Then you'd want to walk out of that place, because clearly they'll influence you to change. And now, what if this is your purpose and the community of people you're having is influencing you to change because it's just not in line with what they're doing? So that will be another litmus test I'll give. Now, coming back to the
maybe before you come back to that, just to drop in something there. Now, you are aware of this guy, Pepe Minambo.
Yes.
Pepe Minambo is a Congolese.
He actually came to our school when I was doing my KCP to give us a motivation speech. Yeah, I know the guy.
Yeah, so
he normally does these pep talks and stuff.
The guy is good. He has had mastery of public speaking and also motivational speaking. Now, in one of his books, Beyond Limits, he drops there in what you have just explained about how to identify your purpose in life. He drops a percentage card, and his percentage card is if whatever you are doing, 20%, you're giving a 20% into this that you're doing, either energy, passion, or whatever you're doing, just a 20%, and it gives you an 80% results, then that's exactly what you should be doing. Now, to reverse it, when you're giving something an 80%,
And the returns are
and
20.
the returns are 20, then
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And I think it falls in your test of passion and result oriented. At the end of the day, passion has to come from what fulfills. Does it fulfill you? You know, when you close those curtains in the night, when you put off the lights, and you go to bed and you are feeling, look, I've done so much, yes, but I mean, it doesn't touch your heart somewhere, then you still have some thinking to do in this life, and that is something. So thank you for raising that point. I think it's worth a consideration, and maybe dropping a percentage card, like Pepe Minabo, would be something.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I just had something, just a parting shot to the personal responsibility you have. Of course, it's not identifying your purpose is not something you do overnight. It takes a while, and sometimes it's after much struggle of trying here and there, juggling with lots of things. Some make sense, some don't make sense. Some work out, some don't work out. But what inspires me is the words of what Bishop T.D. Jakes says about identifying purpose. He says that always give all of yourself to whatever you're doing. If it turns out to be the thing, if it turns out to be the purpose you are destined to fulfill in this world, well and good. But if it doesn't turn out to be the thing, then it will turn out to be the thing that leads you into the thing.
For sure.
So in all that you do, just give it your best, give it 100%, because you might actually reserve your energies for something else. Yet what you're supposed to do, what you're giving, what you're investing little into, is actually the thing. So you'll end up losing it, and you'll remain frustrated. So just give it your all. If it turns out to be the thing, well and good. If it doesn't turn out to be the thing, then it is the thing.
Oh yes, it can't get better than that. And I think it's something that maybe it points to lots of trial and errors.
Yes.
But I think there is no sure way of knowing this. But it's also beautiful for us Christians to involve God in this story.
100%.
It goes without saying. He's the designer. He's a creator, and probably will want to drop us in such places where we become meaningful. And listening to some guy say, he told me in just passing, we're having some conversation, the guy says, God will always place you in somewhere. I will place you somewhere and will also make sure that your will is somewhere there. The will is will, whatever he wants you to do there is there. Some guy also talking about the will of God said, the will of God exists outside our ego.
Beautiful.
And you know, that is something,
Yeah.
when you realize that whatever you're doing,
It's not about me.
yeah, it's not about you. Yeah, so the God card in the identifying our purpose in life is key. It is essential. Of course, a number one priority for those of us who are Christians, those who subscribe to a religion. I mean, thinking of our lives in light of His life, in light of His guidance, and where His will leads us is something we really want to consider, and that is something. Now back to our buttons again.
Yes. Now,
Now,
let's get now to the external forces that help us identify and live our purpose. Clearly, your circle matters a lot. Your associates matter a lot.
for sure.
Your social network matters a lot. If upon meditation, upon introspection, upon prayer, upon trying out a few things, if you have a hint of the direction you feel like the universe is drawing you into, God is drawing you into, then you might want to identify people who are either already there or they are going towards that direction, so that you walk together with them. You can't be drawn towards, let's say, okay, we live in the world of entertainment. You can't be drawn towards, let's say, music. You're a vocalist, but 80% of your time is spent playing basketball. You're clearly going to waste that, all right? So you might want to have a circle of people who are either already there or they are walking towards that direction. It becomes easier for you to live that purpose that you've already identified, okay? And so I believe association is key. The kinds of people you relate with after identifying the purpose. It doesn't mean that you shut all the other doors, no. You interact with people, you have meaningful human interactions, but then when it comes to developing what is already in you, you really need some key figures to help you do that.
So
But that's my thinking.
yeah, and that is something. Thank you for raising that. The outside forces, the interactions we make, associations we make is key. And also, my thinking is sometimes the logic to success is this simple: that you want to be successful in life, you learn from the already successful people.
Yeah.
Now the question we ask is, what is this that they did and how did they do it? A response to the question of what and how becomes something you might want to emulate. And now a student defeating his master would mean you better your how of doing things. And that presupposes that you have identified whatever you really want to do, where your passion is. And in that line of association, you now learn from these people that are already successful. And the logic to it is, how do you do it? Self-improvement, personal effectiveness. What do they put in themselves to become the person that they are? And sometimes for beginner steps, I think the steps we make, we do lots of learning, just emulating that, just copying that. This is how they did it, and this is how they progressed. And along the way, with a lot of open-mindedness, flexibility in thinking, divergent thinkings, pole, we bring all this in our equation, yeah. And when we better our equation, then the result will always be something, and will always be a given. But that presupposes that we have worked in the equation. We make sure we get it right, the rightful steps. And I think it is nice to keep involving God in this story, you know, and maybe doing lots of listening to it, meditation sometimes. And I think the beauty of meditation sometimes is to clarify the thoughts that we have. You know, you clarify it. You say, maybe I should master this, I should do this, I should go slow here, I should improve on this, and that becomes something. Again, those people press buttons, our associations become something that forever will be indebted to. And if anything, social intelligence becomes something that is worth cultivating. Social capital is something that is worth cultivating in our own system. And this leads me to think of the light we carry. Most recent, on Saturday, I grabbed a book in the market by Michelle Obama. She writes a book called The Light We Carry. She did it last year, 2022, during COVID time. You listen to the language in there. Is so much of COVID times and all that. But I think what challenges Michelle Obama is she never knew she can do the things she did, because in 2018 she did a book called Becoming. Yeah, it's something that it's all over. But now in The Light We Carry, you think of the title. You think of the title itself leads you to think of the real ontological reality of a human person, ontological reality of a human being, you know. And the light we carry is something that is deep embedded in us. Those are first inferences you'll make when you think of the title. And that leads me to think of the buttons again, and the people who press them, or the buttons we press for other people. You know, sometimes we get to human interaction, then some guy says, look, I think you're good in this, in this, and this. You might really want to not get so much into this, try focus into this, then you see how that behaves. Now, observational skills become important to those people we associate with, people who observe us, people whom we interact with, because it is through observation that they come and they press those buttons. And a good example is a basketball coach who, for the first, is a new coach being employed. He comes in the trainings, he allows the boys, the basketball players to do the training themselves for 30 days. Imagine the guy sits back, watches them doing whatever they are doing, training. He's always there, but doesn't say anything. When the session ends, he says, we meet again tomorrow. Then after 30 days, he comes and switches positions. Yeah? So he switches the position, say, I think you can do well here, you can do well here, and he reshuffles everything. Then he says, let's try that again. And the basketball players realizes that probably that's where the potential is, and that's where he starts. That's where he starts from bettering them and becoming better persons. And I think our associates, the people we associate with, the people we interact with, in any formidable relationships, those that people are genuine, people are truthful to us, they at one point will point to such realities.
Sure.
They will press those codes and say, this is the light that you carry. I think, again, those buttons are in there, but someone sometime has to help us do it.
Sure.
If our inner energies can't tell that, sometimes I believe God places the rightful people in there, along our paths of life, so that they can become the light that can see this that is deep within us, and also give them the courage to come and help us to press those buttons. And you listen to sometimes how people's lives change because of one conversation that they just had. You have run through life, gone through so many things, then there's this one conversation you have with a person
everything around
and changes your life forever. I think God does that and help us to people who sometimes come and press those buttons to us. This is where our internal energies fails or doesn't point to that light, and now God has to use the external realities to help us get into the deeper self. And it's something amazing to think about, something amazing to pray with also, something amazing we want to do also. You will want to be part of that story where you are the one pointing. You are a pointer guy to such reality. You know?
Sure. And I think some guy called Johari also identified that, but he put it in a very circular language.
That's Johari's window?
Yes, Johari's window in psychology, whereby there is a section of yourself that you know, and others know as well. Then there's a section in yourself that you know and you don't want anybody else to know. The others don't know, and you're also just wishing they don't even know. Then there's a section also, now what we'll call those buttons. There's a section in yourself that people can actually realize when you're blind to them. And I think that's what we'll call the light we carry within that we are not yet aware. So we just need someone to light it up and everything turns around. Then there's the other section which nobody knows and we don't know, but through introspection, through those of us who subscribe to religion, we call prayer, through meditation, through seeking God and seeking purpose, you'll also come to realize. So I feel it's important to also realize when the button is being pressed, to realize when the light is being, when the glowing splint is being rekindled. It's important because if you miss that opportunity of being rekindled, that's it. Because these are opportunities that don't come every day. Not every day you'll meet a good coach. There are a number of coaches around, but there are some coaches you find, you play basketball, let's say, since 10 years old, okay? And it's only up until 25. It's when you realize that this coach is different from the rest. It doesn't mean that he's the best coach, but he's the one who has identified that thing in you and is pushing you forward, okay? You've been in school, since whatever age, but it's only when you're in second year, one lecturer calls you after class and tells you, hey, I feel you have this. It doesn't mean that the other lecturers are, they're below average or anything, but it's important to realize when that light is being enkindled in you, when that button is being pressed by an outside force, because if we miss that opportunity, that's it, who knows?
And that's a nice point, Nabule. I think now it leads me to think of aha moments in our lives. You've heard of aha moments. So I always have it. You realize that there is something within you. And as you're saying, it is important that we don't miss it. Now, you remember the Gospel of Luke 15, the second part of it, second bit of the chapter, it talks about the prodigal son. I think the most important thing that ever happened...
I like what Rembrandt calls that parable. Instead of the prodigal son, the merciful father.
Merciful father.
Because there's that part of the story that nobody pays attention to. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Now, I think the most important thing that ever happened to the prodigal son is when he realized that he's lost, yes, but he still can go back to his father.
Very important.
And that was aha moment for him. Now, what the boy decides to do, he decides to cram a formula. I'll go before my father, tell him that this and this. That's exactly what he didn't say, of course, as you read the gospel. But the point I'm highlighting is aha moments in our lives, that sometimes we are lost in doing so much. Then a realization comes to us, maybe through introspection, or just the courage to face ourselves and face our realities and say, look, we can, maybe when I go back, I'm pretty sure this and this will happen. The guy was sure that when he'll go back to his father will automatically make him, he wanted his father to make him just a slave, not
back as a son.
Not back as a son. And I think getting lost while doing it is good. Is good because the journey of getting to know our purpose in life is somehow tricky, and sometimes we can get lost and go. But realizing that moment when we realize that we can go back, we can still seek some help. This is I think is also a very humble experience, because the guy's pride goes away. He realizes he has to stretch his hand. He has to reach out for help. That is something. And maybe our buttons being pressed sometimes should mean that we are ready also to seek that help. We are ready to stretch out our hands, we are ready to allow those buttons to be pressed, and that should be a very humble moment. It's not a pride moment. It's time when you are saying, look, I know I have tried, I've gotten lost myself, but I think maybe I should seek some more help.
Sure.
And where the external light comes in. And you realize how the internal light within us can inform our external light. The internal light help us to realize what we really need, and also point out to what if I just go and seek this help. You know, the logic of internal and external, where they interact, and where God blesses that, and life happens again. It's beautiful to think of this, and again, buttons has to be pressed, but I also have personal contribution towards these buttons being pressed. And maybe for many of us out there who have realized our purpose in life, our aha moments, those moments when we have realized our buttons are being pressed, I think we have 1,001 reasons to smile and thank God for such opportunities, because when they happen, they never leave us the same. They changes the realities of who we are, and forever we start believing that there is more to life than the average realities we get ourselves in. And that should be something,
Yeah,
that
sure.
should be something forever to thank God for. So the light we carry, whenever I think about the light we carry, also leads me to think of the inner beauties. Maybe you can just think of the term inner beauties.
Just a moment before we get into inner beauties. There's one thing you've been talking about, the realization of I am lost, but I'm also not completely lost. I still have an opportunity to get back. Okay, so adulting is, I believe adulting is the most confusing era of life, especially the transition from adolescent to adult, so the young adult phase. I'm talking about, it can stretch from 19 for those who are lucky, even 18 for those who are lucky to mature early enough. And it can stretch all the way to 30s or even 35, you know. So between this age bracket, you realize that at some point you think that you have it, that you got stuff together. 2 years later, you realize, man, I'm nowhere close to understanding who I am. I'm not close to knowing what exactly I want to do in life. You're nowhere close to saying this is it, you know. And so takes me back to what David Goggins says. He says, the more you fail, no. He says, the dirtier you get, the more you know how to clean yourself. So that means the more you fail, the more you learn how to rise. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, in the midst of all that noise and confusion, the first time it's difficult, you give out yourself to a project, you give out yourself to whatever it is, you give your all, then everything just comes shattering down, and you have no idea how you're supposed to begin again. But the second time, it's a little bit easier to rise. That is, if you rise the first time, if you take the strength and courage to rise the first time. The second time, it will be a little bit easier. The third time, it will be easier, you know, so it goes. So the dirtier you get, the more you know how to best clean yourself. Which is something in in identifying your purpose, in identifying your light, in juggling through life. So let's get to inner beauty.
I think what you're just mentioning, that speaks so much to our human realities and the journey we get ourselves into. So we mess up, we do lots of wrong things, you know, before we get it right. And I think getting it right, it's a big deal. And if you have an opportunity in life to get it right, then you have 1,000 reasons to celebrate. You know? And that is something. Now, inner beauties. think of the life we carry, the light we carry, and the inner beauty is synonymous, like we are talking the same thing. Now, I don't know about you, but what I keep thinking, or my experience with some good human relationship and human persons we have interacted, many a times leads to me realizing that there is this light that people carry, there is these inner beauties that they possess. Now, time without number, it keeps dawning on me that they really don't know that. No, they really don't know that they are somehow different. You can tell when people are different.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see it right in their faces, right in their hearts, and you see that I think the person is different. And maybe the mistakes we make sometimes is we don't say it to them because we assume they know. No, sometimes I think that's a mistake we do. And my thinking to this, or my experience to this, if we get an opportunity in life to point out something that's amazing in a person, please do. You just never know which button you are pressing. You just never know how that changes the reality of a person. You telling them how kind they are, how generous they are, how they are. There's a way you can trace a pattern of someone's way of doing things, and you can say, I think in the next move, I think if I get you in this situation, this is what you'll have done. This is exactly. No, because this is who they are. This is who they are. These are the beauties that are in within them. Maybe finding the courage to point it to them is something. I think is our greatest gesture of being charitable in a Christian understanding. Being charitable, I think, in such situations would mean just saying it as it is and saying, look, I think this is amazing, this characterizes you. Tell them how kind they are, tell them how generous they are, tell them how amazing and different they are, different in good ways, so that we don't leave the room for assumption. Maybe they know, maybe they don't, maybe no one says that to them. No, maybe no one says that to us. And I think it is something to, if we can make the best of human relationships by pointing out the beauties that we see in people, that will also be helping them in becoming more and more better persons. I don't know what you think of all this.
What you're saying is true. I'll give an example. I once worked in a project with a team of guys, and I spoke to one of them, just the first conversation. I could tell this guy is brilliant. This guy is very, very innovative. And I happened to be the leader of the group. And so when you are dividing roles and responsibilities, I knew he could do whatever I wanted, I assigned him to do. But for him, he was like, no, I think that's so much of a big task for me, you know. And so I didn't want to waste that mind, because I knew it could contribute greatly into the project. And so I kept having conversations with him, totally unrelated to the project, totally unrelated to what I wanted him to do. And before he realized it, the guy had realized that actually this is a gift I possess. And you know, he gave it into the group, and it was a very, very successful project. I feel it's important for people to know who they are from us. You know, I feel it's important for us to give people flowers while they can still smell them. One of the reasons I dislike speaking, giving a speech in funerals, is that most of the good things we say during funerals, imagine how much of impact that those words could be if you could have told the guy if he was still alive. I know it sounds strange, but let's say a typical funeral in a Kenyan home will have about, let's say, an average of 15 guys giving some speech, whether it's relatives, whether it's friends, whether it's colleagues, whether it's the church, whatever. Some 15 guys will have to speak somewhere. Okay, so imagine one day, just close your eyes and think of the situation. One day, you're somewhere, then 15 guys come, and they begin telling you stuff about yourself. Very, very interesting stuff, how you've impacted their lives, what difference you are making in society, what difference you are making in the community, and what they appreciate most about you. It makes a difference, very, very big difference. So may I believe in giving people flowers while they can still smell them. Just give out that compliment. It won't cost you much. Just tell the guy, man, I love your brain. You're innovative. Man, I love your generosity. I love you. You're gifted in this area. I appreciate your presentation skills. I feel it's important. It makes a difference in people. It gives them some sort of reinforcement to be better people, to develop that craft. Of course, in the corporate world, we'll talk of incentives, being given awards of the employee of the month, or the best, most valuable player in sports. But you don't need to wait for those structural awards, those structural incentives. Yeah, just give it up.
Anytime, whenever, wherever, we keep saying that.
It goes a long way.
Yeah, in helping someone. I think you are right. I think generosity with our words, kindness with our words is also something that we can always emulate. How about this one idea that we keep challenging ourselves, that we cross-check through our human relationships, our friendships and all that, and maybe you try, challenge yourself once in a while, you drop in that comment. After an interaction, you say, look, I think I love this and this and this about you. And that does not mean just massaging their ego.
Yes, it's not
about massaging someone's ego. Just being genuine, truthful to it. And sometimes it should also mean challenging someone. Say, I think when you work on this and this and this, it gives you an avenue of accessing this and this and this. I mean, sometimes we just need some little fine-tuning up and pale, and then you become more better persons. And I think that is seeing an inner beauty that is coated with something. It has to, an inner beauty of a person that has to remove some few things before the person, becoming even more better, not only for themselves and also for the other people. And I think the most important things that happen when people realizes their inner beauties is not just marshalling their thoughts, their words, or something into life of other people, but one, it is important first for them. They learn how to put their best foot forward. They really know who they are, and knowing who you are helps you in moving in a world that sometimes we might not be telling you who you really are. And that is one for personal benefit, your individual growth, benefit and happiness. But also in a way, a person who realizes this will be more, the logic of it should be more willing to point to others, even their personal beauties, their personal inner beauties, and all that. So it goes a long way in saying, maybe the best thing I'm saying right now is knowing your inner beauty should help you to also identify other people's inner beauties. And sometimes it makes lots of sense because this drops in the concept of compatibility. Compatible people always realize that that's what I was thinking about. We could do the same. I think you realize lots of your thinking patterns or your heart doings are almost the same. Say, look, this is how I feel about this issue. This is how about, it ends up helping in building compatibilities. And sometimes whenever there is no compatibility, it's also fine. But a person who realizes inner beauty, their personal inner beauties should help others also to realize their inner beauties. And that is to say, and the success of one person should trigger a series of opportunities for others also to not only ride on these opportunities, but also to succeed just as they are. And I think this is what Christianity is all about. I think Christianity is tied to basic concepts of being charitable, and generous to each other, and such kind of words. And I think my challenge to myself is to be, if I get opportunities to mention something good to someone, I should say. If I get an opportunity to challenge someone in becoming better, I should do that. If I get opportunities to be there for person, to help some people do it, see it, that will be something. I think this another thing. I think we also get tired with telling people the same things, and sometimes we say you just don't get it, and we walk out, we talk out, no, choke out, and
Yes.
that's fine. Maybe there are some kids, some of us bana tunataka tushikwe mkono, someone tushike mkono akwambia hii ndio nasema nataka ukae hapa. Sometimes you might want to go and grab someone. Na kusema this is what I mean. Sit here, do this.
And most Africans don't appreciate that. Especially our brother. Okay, don't mention names. But I feel there is, especially people of our generation, we have this false confidence in us that we can do whatever we want. And sometimes, I had this friend of mine when we were doing our first degree. So this guy was very passionate. He had the energy for whatever we were doing. And he was telling me, Sam, I really, really want to major into this and proceed and progress with this, which was a good thing. But then looking at the output he was giving, it just can't work. I mean, in all honesty, it can't work. But they are convinced, I love this thing. I want to do it for the rest of my life. But you look at the output, kidogo. So now, if you are to tell this guy, hey man, this is not your space, you never know how they'll interpret that. They look at you as if maybe you, for some weird reason, you're containing them in a box. For some weird reason, you feel that's not their space, and then with whose authority are you telling them this? Most people of our generation, they need compliments, not direction.
That is something. They need compliments and no directions.
Okay, they don't need, they want compliments,
they want,
not direction.
They want, not need. Now, what's the best you hope for in such a situation?
The best you hope for is, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I was telling him, I used to think communication is key in any human interaction. But then later on I realized communication is just a fraction. What matters is comprehension. You can communicate all you want, but if you don't understand each other, it's just silent chaos. You're wasting your sweet time. So the best we can hope for is for them to understand
what we mean,
for them to comprehend the whole idea of what we're saying. Without that, it's just silent chaos.
Now, I think I'm just thinking of what contributes to people thinking that probably what we are saying is not it. Maybe we just don't want them to be whatever they think they want to be. And they will probably labeling might come in. But I think I'm a strong believer that in the world there's still a lot of altruistic people. Altruism in the sense of, look, I have nothing to do with this, and not after any malicious intentions or something. It's just that, look, this is what I feel about it. This is what I see. I'm telling you what I see, how I feel, and all that. And genuine altruistic acts. If they can see that we are genuine, probably that will be that's a plus already. It's a plus because someone will want to believe in someone who is genuine. Now that brings us to point of flattering and all that. We have to do genuine praise, genuine altruistic acts, as opposed to just flatter. Now people realize when we're just flattering them, and I think flatter sometimes may contribute to people feeling otherwise about such issues. But it's important. And as just you are saying, the best we hope for is that they understand what we really mean and what we really desire for them. Sad story. Sometimes it ends in them not getting it or us not getting it, And we somehow push them away. They go away and they feel maybe this is it, maybe. Yeah, it's a sad story. Sad story. The best we hope for is that we help each other realize our dreams and what we so much desire. And this just been thinking about the idea of self-love. Now, self-love, whatever it means in our contemporary world right now, I don't know what it is. But self-love has been used as a concept or an understanding or whatever that means, personal development concept that somehow for some reason it's losing its meaning, because self-love today in a contemporary understanding, I feel it is given a connotation where it's just about me and I should become selfish. Now, it's a genuine act of being patriotic of yourself and hating anything that is outside yourself. So, I don't know about you, I don't know if you have given a thought into self-love today. I think self-love is probably misconstrued.
Yes, a lot.
Or
A lot.
something's just happening.
Self-love has
about the
been
concept of self.
greatly misunderstood, misconceptualized, because normally self-love would be working on yourself so that you can impact the world around you. Okay,
Yeah.
giving yourself time. A very basic example is if you feel you're not in the best mental state. Let's say you're nursing a self-prescribed mini depression, okay, and you know that your involvement in the social space will bring more chaos. Self-love demands you to retreat, get back to your room, work on yourself, so that when you come out, you give light to others. Understand? But I feel these days that concept has been totally misunderstood to mean exactly what you say. I patriotically hold myself and my beliefs, and whatever comes against that, I sincerely and dearly hate it. Which I think it's not the point of it. I think now that brings in selfishness, because I love what Jean-Paul Sartre says, of course borrowing from René Descartes. Okay, so they're like, I think, therefore I am. You remember the cogito ergo sum? Then that clearly means if I'm a subject, then you are a subject. So we exist in a space of intersubjectivity. That means I am the main character of my story, yes, but then this existence is not my story. It is our story. So that means we are all main characters. And if at all I want to center everything around myself, that's clearly egocentrism, which is it's a fail for society. So I feel when it comes to self-love, we should really go back to what it initially meant. What we have as a concept right now, it's mess, it's chaotic. I feel what we have these days, we just substitute selfishness for self-love.
For self-love.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because it's all about, this is me, you have to understand me the way I am, this is what I do.
This is what I know.
You have to fit in my space, not me fit in society's space.
Sad story again.
Sad story.
Sad story. But that challenges us, that's invites us. Now what's the best we hope for with that self-love?
The best we hope for is to get back to the roots, understand the intersubjectivity. If you can grab the concept of René Descartes, Jean-Paul Sartre, and what's this other guy? Emmanuel Levinas, I think. They've spoken of intersubjectivity. Gabriel Marcel.
Yeah,
They've spoken
Martin
of
Buber.
Martin Buber. They've spoken of intersubjectivity in a very beautiful way. You know, this is a human society. This is a human family. This is a sort of fraternal global village, whereby if we borrow the concept of what most African communities had, bringing back the concept of Ubuntuism, it helps us get out of this mess of understanding self-love, yet at the bottom line, we're just talking about selfishness. We're talking about egocentrism. So I think the best you can hope for is to understand deeply understand the concept of intersubjectivity. I don't mean you have to compromise your values just because you exist in a social space. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is clearly understand that the guy next to you is also a subject.
For sure. Clearly understand. Now, understanding is key here. Now, all along, I think conversation is pointing to something that is very, very basic. I think there is a beautiful connection between self and the other. There's a beautiful connection between this that is so much personal to this that is communal in a way. And if our internal realities, our self realities can have impact in the external realities, then I think we get it right. I think the design of the system will want that our self-concept, our self-understanding of love should also be our understanding when handling the other. And so the generosity, the kindness, how well you treat yourself should mean is also the same thing you are doing to the other. And basically to say, if there is internal light, if there is inner beauties within you, basically you'll want also to see the inner beauties in the other person. You know, if the buttons that you are pressed on, that you are pressing, or someone has pressed for you, is yours and you are getting it, that it has been pressed and decoded, you'll also want to do the same to the other person. And so if I think our biggest project will be, we understand, we get to discern that this that is so much, that seems to be so much personal, is also actually what is so communal. Is also should be what we should do to the others. The logic of self should point to the other. The logic of my inner beauties should point to the other person's inner beauties. And the logic of the light we carry should be the logic of the light that the other person carries. If anything, Christianity can't get better than this. And I think this is what God will always be desire for us. And it's just amazing to think of how much our life is so much tied to each other, you know. This is a good invitation that our life is just tied to each other. Maybe because we keep talking about them casually, we are social beings, we are social animals, we have to live in a community. Sometimes we just take it, well, these are stories we keep talking about.
But we don't really
but we really don't get it deeper into it. Maybe it's time, this should be an invitation to us to think of what does it really mean, to raise the question. But what do we really mean when we say we are a social animal or we are a social being? And that is something. You realize how much of the designer's will, purpose is dropped in between persons, is dropped in other people to help other people to do some other things, you know. And that should be something that is so much admirable.
Sure. You've been mentioning the design of the system. I don't think everyone who's watching this understand what we mean by this. So what I'm thinking is, let's cut it from here. The next episode, we explore this design of the system. Those who know me, I normally ask that question, who designed this system? And there is a reason why we are slow to give the design of the system a name. And I think we can explore that in the next. Because it's an interesting topic to think about. Who designed this system? The way it operates, chaotic as it is, beautiful and structured as it is. Who designed it? Of course, I know clearly in your head you're thinking about God. that's the first answer that will come. But maybe as we converse, you'll understand why we are slow to give
Yeah,
to give him an
I think we should start there some other time.
Sure.
When we meet, man. Look, it can't get better than this. And you know what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking and really bringing this to reflection and prayer that this that we keep discerning, talking about, you realize everyone, somewhere, someone is doing a conversation almost the same. And my question is, what exactly are we after? What exactly are we looking for? You know, my prayer is that this that we are trying to get right, that God help us to really realize that. And if it is our past realities that are painful, that it brings healing and mercy to that it makes our present to have some meaning and purpose, this that we so much desire. And most importantly, I pray that it gives hope and light to our future.
Sure.
And this, I think, should be our prayer these days and the days to come.
Sure.
Sam, I am very happy to share this with you.
Thanks to
I think it's good when it's never planned.
yeah, sure.
You just come and talk
Just
about
comes raw.
everything. Yeah. So I wish you well, Ban, as you think about life.
Thank you. I also wish you the same as you think about life, as you try to understand why on earth you're here.
For sure.
Why on earth the design of the system placed you in this space. Because the best we can hope for again is to identify our purpose and live it out before death knocks on our door.
Can't get better than that, man. Thanks, man.
Thank you,
I
Sana.
appreciate, man.
I appreciate.
Safi.
Thank you. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and give us your thoughts on this, what you think about what you're doing here. We really, really appreciate. Until next time,
Awesome
peace.
music.